Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. Today is an infinitely important day for so many reasons, but we've got this unbelievable studio set up with a live stream that we're going to come and bring to you guys soon that we're super fired up. But more importantly, we have one of the three most dynamic dudes that I have met in the last decade. We've had the pleasure of being intertwined from a business relationship, but also on our quest of entrepreneurship. These three guys have accomplished so much in their time, just in a short period in the last 5 years, and they have been on an incredible journey building, in my opinion, and I know Taylor and Rod would agree with this, the most innovative mobile insurance app the industry has ever seen, and it is an absolute privilege to have them on the show today. So we have the gentlemen from GloveBox, Andy, Sean, and Ryan, the three partners and the three heads to this incredible company. And guys, I just can't say thank you enough for taking the time. I know you guys are super, super busy, and I am like a kid right now, giddy with how many questions we want to ask you guys in regards to your journey, what you've accomplished, and the time that we have here together. So thank you so much for stopping by.
Welcome.
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? Thanks so much for having us. And Brett, happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I can't think of a better time to spend my birthday with you guys, man. And even though we get to do this virtual, I know we get a chance to break bread in person here soon, and I'm fired up about that, just to give the listener an idea of how powerful it is of this relationship that we have, and how much respect we have for these three guys. Our summit is coming up here very shortly. It's the Super Bowl of our business this year. Coming up is the biggest that we've had in a decade, and they're coming down as special guests to speak and pour into our team, and there will be a lot of us getting out of the way and letting them take the lead and take the mic, because what these guys have been able to do in such a short period of time is nothing short of extraordinary. So, man, I'm tickled to death. You guys are amazing. What a great birthday gift this is today.
Yeah, we're pumped up for it.
Yeah, we love it, man. Thanks for having us, guys. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
guys. It's exciting.
I don't know if you guys want to. I wanted to go through their background real quick and get the audience kind of an idea of who you guys are. For those that don't know, if you're in the insurance business, specifically the independent insurance agency channel, you know of GloveBox. It is, in my opinion, the biggest name in the industry right now. It's the buzz of the town. We are utilizing it significantly in our agency. It's profoundly shaping how the consumer is serviced, and it's been a massive need that nobody's been able to tackle at this point. And three guys that come from the insurance space, not in a tech space, had this unbelievable idea to jump off the bridge and figure out how to get the parachute to open on the way down, and it's unbelievable to watch them do it. It's incredible. So there's a clue. Success leaves clues, and there's going to be a ton of clues today in this podcast. So buckle up. So I wanted to give a quick background of both three of these guys. They worked together at an agency that Andy and Ryan's dad started. It was years ago at this point. But when they got into the business, I think that was 9 years into the agency. I think it was $5 million in premium. For those that you're in the insurance business, you understand what that number is, but $5 million in premium, it's a nice size agency. It's a great performing agency, doing well. And 9 years later, after they entered the picture of what they were able to accomplish with them and their dad, they were able to take a $5 million book and transform it into a $100 million business. And to think about the epic leaps and bounds that it takes to scale something on that magnitude, especially in the independent agent channel, it is the elite of the elite. And we're going to get into what those mechanics look like and peel back the layers of how they did that. But then take that success. They ended up exiting from private equity with a large private equity exit, which a lot of people don't have the opportunity to experience that, let alone do it at such a high level at such a young age. But then take that experience and jumping into the tech world, where really, and I'll let you guys speak on this, but not a tremendous amount of experience there, but we're led with the passion of creating something that they didn't necessarily have when they were on the agency operations side. Something that they felt so strong that was lacking with their own business, that they knew that there would be a need, and they could help so many other independent agents if they were able to pull off this unbelievable process. So, and I want to share this because I think it's so important. The idea of what you guys have done, it's like the chicken and the egg. You can imagine the person who sold the first fax machine, right? You've got to get the person that's sending it, and you got to get the person that's receiving it, and get them to collaborate and both buy into the idea before you actually create the fax machine. And what they've been able to do with GloveBox and what it is of connecting the consumer with the insurance carrier and doing it in a digital way that's seamless and easy for the user is profound, because you have to get all the carriers on board and you have to get the customers. And both of them look at the other side and say, well, you don't have the carriers. And the other person says, well, you don't have the customers. And you have to simultaneously run these two tracks while you're creating this platform of connection. And to do all this with just running on complete passion and grit and using the same principles that they were used to be successful in the insurance agency side and take it to a space that they didn't have as much experience with, we're in for a treat, because what you guys have done is just absolutely incredible. So, you know, I don't know if you guys have any color on that, but it's something that I've looked at and gone, what an unbelievable feat you guys have been able to pull off. So thank you for stopping by today.
Yeah, boys.
Ryan.
Man, I'm worn out just listening to it. I'm tired right now. I'm gonna go take a little nap. No, I mean, look, like any entrepreneur that's on a journey, I feel like you ever have those reflective moments on Friday early evenings when you're having a cocktail, and the doubts start creeping in. It's like, man, are we doing the right things? Like, are we gonna pull it off? You know, what road are we really going down here? I think it's very easy to second guess the decisions that you make during the journey. So for me, and reflecting back in like the early days of starting GloveBox, especially, there was a lot of doubt, man. There was a lot of doubt. Like, is this thing gonna resonate? Like, are we going to be able to pull it off? Exactly what you guys are saying when it comes to bridging this gap between carriers and policyholders and agents. Like, typically and traditionally in our business, the divide is, the Grand Canyon. Like, it is wide. And so trying to articulate to all the stakeholders why this is a valuable and necessary platform and technology, it was a grind, man. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I had a lot of those Friday nights. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Jump off the bridge analogy was perfect.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to still jump off the bridge, but hey, that's part of the journey, right? So it's fine.
Yeah.
The bridge is getting lower, which is nice.
Right. Well, give us a glimpse too, right? Because you did a great job of articulating the massive scale that you brought to the independent agent channel before that exit and jumping into GloveBox. But give us a snapshot of day one of GloveBox. Where are you guys now as far as the team, as far as the things that you track and how you're trending, just to bring the listener up to speed with how that's gone in the last few years?
Sean, you've been able to document this really well throughout the past few years. I would imagine that you should take this one.
Sean's been doing some light journaling for the past couple of years, some reflective journaling.
Yeah, I mean, the journal came out more just from my own journey on personal development and finding ways to reflect. I've journaled honestly a lot. When I started my very first day in insurance, I had a very specific journal at the end of I wouldn't even call it a journal necessarily, it's more of a notebook, but every day I would write, what did I do well? A couple things I did well and a couple areas I could improve, because every day you should be able to incrementally move that forward. And I went through streaks where I was really good at maintaining that, and then streaks where I wasn't. And with GloveBox, it became very apparent that you really need to not look at your current reality and use that as the fact of where you are. You have to really be projecting out quite a bit further and not look at those that current state that you're in. So I had read an article and someone mentioned something about, I want to say it was like the happiness journal, kind of a silly thing. It was like, you write, it's a page and say, what's today? The 27th. So today in this journal, there'll be 5 entry points in 2021, 2022, all the way down through 5 years. And you write one sentence of just one thing that happened. And I started it in 2019, about 3 or 4 months after we really dove headfirst into GloveBox. And so most of the journal is like, we just did this, we just did that, or, Andy's, reaching out and selling agencies before we can take money yet. I wonder how we're going to accomplish taking a credit card. We have to build that out. And, I've decided I'm going to jump into the data models. How hard could that be? 2 years goes by, and so it's been really well documented from these really minute steps. So the journal is really just more of a little, touch base, and I'll always hit these guys with like, what we were doing 1 year ago today or 6 months ago, and it's helped put into perspective that you guys probably know that quote, like, most people underestimate what they can do in 5 years, but they overestimate what they can do in a day, and this journal's been the epitome of it for me, because it just shows this granular step-by-step process. But, I know that doesn't answer the question entirely. Honestly, Ryan, you could probably speak more to or Andy, one of you guys, to where we're at, where the team's at now, because there's been quite a few changes over the last 2 years, 1 year, 2 months.
Yeah. For me, I was just going to say the perspective of when we were at the agency, we were extremely confident in what we were doing and how we were going about doing it. We had the model, we followed it, it made sense, we taught other people to do it, and we were successful at that. We jump over to the tech space, and guys, it was like, complete unknown, just like we're trying things out, we'll see what works. We had no journey really, or like path of how to succeed. We were just making it up as we went. Now each day and each week that went by, it felt a little bit better. We had some momentum, but then you hit this roadblock and it's like, now what? Pivot. Okay, pivot over here. And so this like complete roller coaster of emotion and just understanding of how we're going to accomplish this mission. Now, sitting here today, the confidence is extremely high, and we are in a good place where that path has been made. We know how we're going to get there. And so it's just funny, the past 3.5, 4 years of reflecting on that journey. So that's kind of my perspective on where we are and what we've been doing.
Well, real quick, just so we're going to give context to that, obviously you started with no users, and today, how many people are on, how many end users, right? So people that don't know, right, this is an app that agencies use to be able to service their clients better. So it connects their clients with all the array of different insurance carriers. The problem is, in our business, you might have one homeowner insurance carrier, and you might have 3 other markets, 3 other carriers that write your auto, a personal umbrella, and a boat. So the utilization of the technology to connect carrier and customer has been lacking. There has been none. And most people, especially now we've got a hurricane approaching, most people are calling in because they don't even know which carrier they're with, let alone to be able to consolidate all those in a digital lockbox or a digital locker. And this is what GloveBox has been able to do, and seamlessly connect and automate this process so that you don't have to worry about which carriers you're with all the time. That might be changing, but the connectivity of being able to look in your mobile app to see what's there is always static. So you go from 0 users to where are you today of how many customers of agencies are actually on the platform?
Yeah, so today we're at 350 agencies live, and we've got, last time I checked, we were at like 150,000 users.
Wow, that's amazing.
And honestly, man, that like, we're just getting started. Like, we're only personal lines right now. We've got commercial, like really close. We've got almost a 2,000 agency waiting list for commercial.
Wow.
To Sean's point with the journal, like when you look back and you're like, oh man, it's so funny to hear our struggle of that day a year ago and to look at what we're looking at now. It's like the context of the company and your viewpoint of where you're at totally changes, because like any successful entrepreneur, and you guys know this as well, you're never really satisfied with the current state, right? There's always more you can do. There's always new projects. There's those exciting endeavors and partnerships that you're working on. And I feel like for us, it's always a quick celebration, a quick, kind of high five, and we're back at it. So like 150,000 users to us is literally just, that's the hors d'oeuvres coming in. Yeah. Like we haven't even hit the main course yet.
Yeah,
so.
I love that.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, go ahead, John. Yeah.
I relate to that, man. Go ahead.
Well, Sean, you said something that sparked my interest. I think about the community of questions we've got here when you referred to personal development and your habit of journaling. And then, Andy, you came back with something that talked about, we kind of make it up as we go. First thing I think about, and I think the listener will really relate to, is when you start talking about the way you've incorporated journaling and personal development into the journey of what GloveBox has been from start to now. So, Sean, first part is to you. how much do you draw on that every day? How much of a habit is that built in to just your normal routine? That's part one. Part two is, Andy, you said, well, go ahead.
So the journaling for me it's honestly, it's every day now. It's become a habit. It's, we started it in 2019, right around Thanksgiving. My wife actually does it as well. She gets a little bit more of the kids stuff, the family stuff. And I sprinkle that in, but it's an everyday thing. Kids go to bed. First thing we do is we walk over to either our room or downstairs, pull out the journal. It takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we write one thing, two things. And, we miss a day or two from time to time and go back and add it in, but it's an everyday thing now.
Wow.
That's impressive.
What a cool hack. I mean, you talk about success leaves clues. I mean, right there's a huge one. And I hope that people get grabbed from that, man. That's great to hear. The second part of that question was, I think, Andy, you said, we kind of make it up as we go, right? But you always have the end game in mind. So I just think to myself, the plan you have to start is not the plan that gets you there to finish. And you kind of make pivots along the way. How intricate has that become with you guys now?
Well,
Andy, tell them about the OKRs.
Yeah, it's a blast. So I would say flying by the seat of my pants is my best trait. I love being able to say, I see a thing and I do it, right? I react to it. It's a task in front of me. I make it happen. And I've always been very good at that. Up until about a few months ago, our operations team, which has been established over the past few months, put a halt to that, kind of that thought process and the way we do things. We've had to say, no, we're going to stop all that BS. We're going to actually dedicate time to slow down, do it right, document it, have it looked at by one or two people, maybe more, and really decide, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right way of doing it? Is it important? Does it point to what we call a North Star? You may be familiar with objective key results. It's a fairly common tool that's used in bigger companies and whatnot, but we've implemented that here at GloveBox, and it's allowing us to have some objectives and then some key results that point to those objectives, and we've really done a good job. And Sean has been the leader on this project. It's allowed us to get more dialed in as a team, more in sync with one another, and that's what we're doing now. So that's hopefully a good way of putting it.
That's an evolution.
Maybe to piggyback off that, it's almost like I've told a lot of people this. Ryan, Andy, and I have a very lucky dynamic between the three of us. We're very much a Venn diagram. Like Andy said, Andy is like idea, run. And then I'm usually like, what are the next steps right after you hit that thing that you're going to do? And then Ryan's very much a very big picture, like A to Z type of a person. He can see that. So we've got Andy just running and gunning, Ryan very big picture, and I am very, very much like what's next? Here's where it's going to go wrong. And if this happens, that's going to happen. And so when we were in a room together, as we started, really even stuff with the agency and with GloveBox, it was very much our personalities ping-ponging back and forth. And so two things around that is, one, we're very lucky to have that. If you're in your own business, I feel like you kind of have to create that yourself. You got to, think of your own business. If you're a solo entrepreneur like that, you got to go, hey, I'm a little nervous to do this. You got to adopt a little bit of Andy's mentality and just go out there and get your nose bloody. And then you need to take a step back and be like, what happened? What could I have done better? Where did I go a little bit too fast? Then you've got to take another step back and do what Ryan does and think big picture. But the thing that makes us work really well together is really our egos are very much out of this entirely, and the process we put in place with this OKR strategy has allowed our entire company to really, put their egos to the side because of the fact that you have to write your idea down, you have to scope your mission that you're working on, you have to source the resources internally. And then you have to say, hey, guys, does this make sense? Do we like this idea? And usually your idea ends up not being your idea. It becomes our idea. You pick and chose a little bit from everyone. And so it's been a huge impact for us.
I know Ryan's favorite thing is when you come up with something and you document it and then you realize it was stupid. You just don't do it.
I love that, man. I'm telling you, especially in insurance, right? Insurance agents. And when you're coming up with marketing strategies, right? You're like, man, what a great idea. I was driving to work. I have a great idea. Marketing strategy. There is nothing more enlightening than sitting down and documenting what did you have on this morning. Let's go hit up all the gas stations and, you know, whatever.
Right. There's so many.
There's nothing more enlightening than actually sitting down, and it seems really dumb, and like documenting the steps that it's going to take to actually implement that strategy down to like the details of, you know, get with Brett and discuss this email that needs to be sent out at this point of the strategy, right? Like that much detail. And when you start looking at a concept that you thought in your mind was super easy, super simple, we'll just deploy this, you know, this strategy and it'll push it, right? Once you start breaking it down, you're like, the thing balloons, first of all. You're like, well, dang. Like now I need like these 10 people involved in the project. They're busy. And you really start to vet with other stakeholders in the mission that you've scoped of like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, do I really need to spend 25% of my day for the next 3 months on this marketing project that, you know, from my brilliant idea I had when I was driving into work? So it's like, it's been super enlightening for us to really get focus and clarity on what's important now. And you'll have some good ideas that aren't necessarily bad ideas. They're just not for right now. And it's okay to write it down. We're very big in our culture here at GloveBox of writing stuff down now. You know, Sean's been our champion on it. Like he's been cracking the whip, but write it down even if you don't think you're going to do it now. And then we put it in something called the backlog. Backlog that idea and then keep it for future use when maybe it's more applicable to what's going on at that point in time. So to that aspect, when you write it down and you take some time to study it, you realize your brilliant idea was not a very good idea. And I've had multiple of those. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, because it also seems like you want to create a culture of ideas and free-flowing communication, but you also want to create a culture of execution.
Yeah.
And that has got to be a balance. Yeah. One thing you mentioned about these ideas of marketing and, you know, call it the flavor of the month mentality that, you know, different entrepreneurs have, where you go, you get excited, then you go, okay, that just distracted me from something that I know that works. I know that's proven. I just need to do more of that. Something that I really borrow from your guys' experience, you know, when you're on the agency side, it's this relentless pursuit of mortgage and real estate professionals, right? And you did it with such an intensity, such a scalability, to the point where you load the CRM and you just go talk to more people, go super, super wide and then build relationships. It seems like you've done the same thing with GloveBox, where you've targeted agencies and you've done the same thing. And then you go, okay, well, we need to raise money. Okay, that's the same thing. So talk a little bit about that marketing muscle and that sales muscle, how that's evolved and what looks the same across those different vantage points and what looks different.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, a big theme that we have here at GloveBox is protecting your focus. That's a huge thing for us. And we preach that to everybody here. And really, we had the same mentality at the agency, although we didn't, you know, have that same verbiage when we talk to our producers. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's consistency, man. Like, people are inconsistent, and that's why they fail. That is the number one reason people fail. They are not consistent. Like, you cannot jump around to 10 different things in a year and expect to be successful. It just will not work. You've got to pick a lane and really be hyper focused and protect your focus on that one thing. Sink or swim, right? Obviously, don't ride that ship into the ground, but you got to give it some time. You got to give it a lot of effort, a lot of focus. And again, all part of writing down those other ideas. They're not bad ideas. Backlog those ideas, but protect your focus on what you're working on now. I mean, for us, we're relentless on the way we operate here at GloveBox, much like the way we operated back at the agency, of saying, look, these are the people we're going after. These are our ideal agencies, the Urban Youngs of the world, right? You guys are an ideal agency for us, the way you're set up, successful. You have agents, you have a nice book of business, you're leaders in the industry. You know, those are our ideal agencies that we're building our platform for. All the other noise is just noise, right? People send us 1,000 ideas of like, hey, you guys should think about doing this or integrating this or doing that over there. And like, very easy to squirrel, right? But if you protect your focus and you're relentlessly focused on what you're doing and you've defined it, it's very easy to execute as long as you're consistent. So,
and just to piggyback off that, Sorry, Sean. Yeah, to piggyback off that, there's that concept of like the 10,000 hour rule, where if you want to be an expert at something, you stick to it and you dedicate a long amount, a lot of time towards doing that right. And that's what we did at the agency with the lead generation process. We just did it. That's the only thing we did. We did it so damn well that it just crushed. And then you look over here at GloveBox, and we're trying to emulate the same concept of just like dial in on that one thing and do it really freaking well, and it's going to work out.
How many hours in on 10,000 are you guys at GloveBox?
How many hours what?
How many hours in are you on your 10,000 at GloveBox?
Yeah, I think we've like a million.
Look at Sean's hair. Is that not? Look at those grades.
Just so you guys,
believe it or not, this was a bit darker before we started this.
Yeah, one of the questions from the Be Extraordinary community was, is that Sean's real hair? And just so you know, yes, that is Sean's real hair.
I love it. I wanted to ask a quick follow-up.
That's going to be on his grave, on his tombstone.
You got, I've had the privilege of being near you guys in your space, listening to you talk, and obviously, know you well enough to know that you make a distinct difference between marketing and sales. Talk to us about your philosophy on that. I love hearing this every time, and I think the listener will too.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to maybe even back into that is from the insurance side of things. If you're an independent agent, and you don't have a team, I was very clear and with people I trained and my team and myself is that, you are wearing two distinct hats. Like, you are marketing or you are selling, and everything is different about it. Like, the verbiage is different. The music you're listening to while you're executing on it is completely different. For me, if I'm quoting, selling, pounding the phones, like it's EDM music. It's like high energy. It's like, I gotta get amped up. You've got to wear your two different hats, and it's really important to separate those. However you need to do it, how I had to do it, I had to separate it on my calendar. I had to put two distinct different colors on my calendar. This is when I do marketing activities. These are the marketing activities I do, and these are the numbers I'm trying to hit for my marketing activities. So if somebody came and asked me a sales call, or if somebody called me, and it was a current client, send a voicemail, because I don't have my sales hat available to me right now.
You were protecting your focus? Is that what you were doing there?
Protecting my focus. It's too easy. Most people want to skip the marketing, or they want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like Ryan said, they don't want to say no to 99 things to say yes to the one thing that's going to make them money, or they're going to get bored with the one thing that's making them money.
Right.
You're getting 50, 60 leads a month and you're bored and you're like, well, what should I do next? And it's like, maybe just nothing, maybe the same thing because it's working. But I was very specific. Marketing's the most important thing out there. I would rather lose deals and keep marketing because one deal. If I can go call a new referral partner, that one extra call might turn into 50 deals, this next year, let alone maybe 100, 200 deals over the next 2 or 3 years, let alone they introduce me to an entire office, to 5 other people. So I'm going to make those extra calls, and I'll walk a smaller deal or a harder to work with client. So for me, the way I structured my day, it was marketing first, because, if you don't make any sales in a day, but you market aggressively, you're going to feel really good about the day by noon, and no one else in your office is doing the same thing. So I'm very specific on, I had a task, a list, and I think you guys have seen it. I think I shared it with you guys. I had it was called a greatness tracker, and I had 2, one for marketing, one for sales, and it was really easy. Make my 15 to 20 calls, to these referral partners every day, and Ryan knows I was in there 7:30, so get that done in 2 hours. By 9:30, I feel
in the office every morning, and all the other producers wanted to complain about how Sean was always on the leaderboard, always producing.
How does he do it?
Business, like whining about, he must be doing something different. He's getting leads, and it wasn't, man. He was in at 7 a.m. every morning, pounding the phone.
So let me give some context to this, because I shared one of my favorite stories, Sean. We got a chance to spend a lot of time in Denver when we were hanging out. We share a very similar background, which is cool. But just for the listeners at home, Sean was an elite producer, elite from a personal line standpoint, $1 million producer, multiple years, then moved over to commercial his first year, basically did the exact same thing, not knowing anything about commercial. And I just think it's funny that your philosophy, not funny, but success leaves clues. Here's the clue. You're talking about sales can take the back seat to marketing, but you're the pinnacle of somebody who puts up big sales numbers. So it's just it's a reality check to say, I know that that's going to happen as a byproduct of what I'm doing, right? It's not like Sean's this marketing guy and he doesn't put up sales numbers. I would, if you looked at it just for face value, you'd say the opposite, in my opinion, if I just looked at it from a number standpoint. But to hear you talk about that is such a great distinctive reminder, and I'm sure that's why you asked the question, of that stuff just takes care of itself if you do the right things and you do them in their proper order. So it's just good for somebody to know Sean's an absolute animal when it comes to sales, and there's no question as to why.
I think it's not industry specific, right? I mean, you can that philosophy taken to any industry, any application. I think you can have the same results.
Yeah, and I think
I was
just going to say, you said he makes his 15 to 20 calls to referral sources a day. I'm sure it just wasn't every once in a while. It was every day. And I think one thing we picked up from you guys when we first met you was, the simplicity of marketing is letting your market know what you do. And then the last part that's missed, letting your market what you do consistently. And that simplification certainly spoke to me. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, and to that point, Sean wasn't fancy about his marketing. Like, he wasn't an AdWord genius. He wasn't doing, some very intricate email marketing campaigns. Like, he literally was picking up the phone and using LinkedIn as a resource to identify who he was going after, right? A very targeted list of people. And he identified his outcomes, of what he wanted to accomplish. He scoped out, what a success looked like, and then he executed. That's it. It's not this fancy, 8-week course on how to market digitally to whatever. Like, I feel like people put a lot of blockers in the way of like, oh man, I really got to learn AdWords and getting really good at social media because it just seems like I'm not going to be successful if I don't do that. It's like the very basics of marketing is still there.
That's so solid. Love it.
If you add in too, understanding what the goal is when you wear each of those hats, like if you're going to cold call a commercial shop, the goal is not to sell them a GL. The goal is to say hi, like, right, how's it going? Odds are you probably don't want to talk to me. Like, I'm very aware that, I'm good on the phones, I think, but you don't want to talk to me, So realizing that all I'm trying to do is leave that interaction where they're like maybe just slightly interested in who I am. Can I follow up? No big deal. When the time is right in a year, you're planting those seeds, and most of the time seeds don't produce fruit on the very first call. And if they do, that's killer. That's fantastic. Those are big wins. But, it's very different from when you're on a sales call. You've already sent the quote. That's a very different outcome. You are trying to get to the next, to the sale, or if you're on the call and then they're kind of interested, the goal is to get the opportunity to quote or the opportunity to have a coffee with the person. So if you understand, you're not trying to hit home runs every time. Rod, you said it perfectly. This applies to everything. If you want to go get good at golf, just go consistently putt. That'll really help. Just one thing over and over and over.
Man, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the next one because, Andy, this one's for you, brother, because we've spent a lot of time together when you came down here last time. We got to talk about just the sheer scale of the size of your guys' operations. So if we can go back in time of the insurance agency days, one of the biggest challenges that we see our peers make and something that we protect, you say protect the focus, Ron. I love that, man. I mean, for us, we're protecting scale. We eat, breathe, and sleep scale. If it cannot be scaled, we will not do it. And in our business, in the insurance industry specifically, we see a lot of people do what works, not what duplicates, and therefore they get stuck. And so what I have so much respect, and I know these guys, we've all said it in private, we have so much respect for because this is what we're modeling towards and what we're doing is, you guys have been able to take what you did and scale it. At some point you had 200 agents, right? You started with how many leads? At the pinnacle of when you were writing the most new business, what was the volume of, we talk about embedded insurance, or we call it referral marketing. A lot of people that are listening to this call are in some sort of business where there's a transaction that's taking place and they're positioning themselves to be the go-to person to assist with a transaction. I don't care if you're in the mortgage business, real estate business, insurance business, it could be a lot of things. There's certain events that happen in people's lives where there are multiple professionals that help them solve a problem, right? Specifically in your space and exactly how we've built our business, we rely heavily on servicing the real estate world. So when you were at the height of your time before your exit, what was the sheer scale of the referrals that you were getting or the leads that you were getting? And where did that start maybe when you first got in the business? That's my first question. My second question is, how many of those leads were actual referral based? They were coming from another professional sent to you to help with the transaction versus maybe coming in from an online lead source?
Okay, awesome. That first part of the question is really based on, hey, we had a model that we were building from scratch. This model was, how can we put boots on the ground and do some guerrilla marketing where we would knock on doors, get professionals to be interested in what we had to bring to the table, and get them to buy into the thought of sending us their clients. So that was the foundation of the model. And now we got to do that on scale, like you talked about. And so my role at the company was to lead generate for a team of inside sales producers. So they were basically sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for leads to come in the door until I was out on the streets making it happen. So as I was out in the field, knocking on those doors, establishing those relationships, getting that system in place, leads started to trickle in. And what was going on was I was seeing about 2 to 3 leads per day in the beginning, where I was getting them into a couple of producers. They were able to quote and sell. Now I was taking the initial phone call, basically the initial part of the application, getting that information over to the producer, and they were starting to finish up the quote process and get that sold. But then as I built that network and got it to a place where I was meeting with, I would do about 5 offices per day, 4 days a week. So you can do the math. It ended up being about 150 to 200 referral partners that I was meeting every month. And then I was producing anywhere between 150 to 200 leads out of those individuals. Now, most of those people, it was like a top 25, right? I had like 25 to 50 really good partners, and then the others were just sending like onesies, twosies throughout the year. Right. But I had a really good, at the end of this thing, at the pinnacle, at where I was generating 7 to 10 leads a day, very consistent. And it was like clockwork. They were just flying in. Even when I took the day off not to visit the offices, they were still coming in the way I needed them to. And so I was feeding a team of producers. And then those producers, by the way, would be evolving in their career to be stepping out and learning that same process to generate business on their own and building their own book of business. So that's that first part of the question there. As far as the lead sources and how we were generating those leads, I think honestly 80-90% of the leads were the referral-based lead source. And then the rest of them were just kind of ancillary. They were a little bit of natural market, friends and family, a little bit of social
client
media
referrals.
Yeah, current client referrals and such. But 80-90% of them were professional networking.
At one point in Colorado, we were on over 50% of every mortgage transaction. So that kind of gives you
state?
In the state, yeah. So we were on right over 50% of every.
You got to remember, we had agents that were replicating this model that was being done for an inside sales team. But then when those agents would be growing their own book, they were going and doing the same thing. So we had 100 agents doing the same model.
So what is that number? What was that total top line number? Leads, referrals coming in over the entire organization per month?
How many of these? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
if each producer was bringing in 40 average, our expectation of an agent was they were doing 50 to 60K in new business premium every single month.
Yep.
It was actually 35 when I started, but then you guys upped it.
Well, then we keep bumping it up. Like you got to level up. I would say our elite agents were doing over 100 every month.
So let me ask you this, Ryan. Let me change it. Let me ask us a different question, because were leads ever were they ever a problem? Did you ever go, man, I just don't know if there's enough here to support where we're at?
No. Here's the problem that happens, right? Too many leads is never a problem to me. The good producers step up. They figure out ways to quote faster. They start investing in their business, right? They look at, hey, like Sean did, can I hire an assistant to help with the data process, the quoting process, the closing of files, collecting payment info. How can I reduce my friction as a single agent? And I'm talking about insurance right now, a single agent entity on my team, right? So that I can better work my current leads or go get more if I need them. But leads were never a problem for us. Honestly, it was,
imagine that.
It was helping agents with that scale, taking that next jump, understanding when it's time to invest back into your business in order to grow. A lot of professionals in real estate and insurance and mortgage, they don't understand the concept of investing in their business to grow because they look at it as money out the door. And that is not a way to look at your business.
To Sean's point earlier, because marketing was such a focus, marketing is the foundation for sustainability in a long-term career in any industry.
Boom.
So we believe that wholeheartedly.
Amen. I actually
It's really easy to sell deals when you have that many of them.
Yeah, your mentality is so different when you're selling deals like that. Like,
oh, I'm sorry, you don't want to do your auto? Okay. You got referred to me. Why don't you call USA again? Okay. Call me back when you're ready.
Yep.
Prospect,
I got 50 more right behind you.
Yeah.
Sean, I want to follow up on this because what was amazing about that insurance specific is, by the way, they would only write home and auto, right? So they would actually say no more than other agents that we deal with here in Florida, and certainly we've adopted that. But at the same time, tell me about the agent, Sean. Bring me into that position. You have the person that's cut their teeth in sales. Maybe they're a little apathetic to market. Give me the good and the bad of the person that did really well making that transition from, hey, I'm a pretty good salesperson, now I'm going to flex this marketing muscle. Or you maybe had high hopes and go, man, I really thought this person was going to be a really good marketer, but they're not. Was there an ingredient that made somebody a good marketer when they made the transition from more of an inside role to now going and duplicating your system and getting their own leads? Is there something that was there that was a good thing? Is there something that was keeping them and preventing them from being successful? Give us some insight there.
Good question.
I feel like this won't be that exciting of an answer. I think Ryan hit it. It is absolutely consistency. You can be really bad at talking to people, really bad, if you're just consistent.
We had a couple
of just show up.
Yeah.
We had several agents, won't name them by name. You guys know them, but you're like, man, they're not good at this at all. They're really bad at it. But they just kept banging their head. And 3, 4, 5 years later, they're making 10, 12, 15,000 a month. They're writing their 25, 35K a month, have a good month, a bad month. They lose a referral partner because they're not good at keeping it up. But at the end of the day, it's insurance money, it's renewals. If you're just consistent. So the key ingredient, you'd have something easy. It's like, look, you got to make 50 touches a week, 10 a day. You always have people that are like excited. First week they hit all 5 days. Wonderful. The next week they did 4 days. The next week they did 3. The next they did 2. You come back and they're like, hey, it's not working. And it's like, well, every day you took off was an extra day behind. So actually you only did 10 days, but now we're 4 weeks in and you should have done 20. You basically just worked part-time. So of course it's not going to work. It's not going to take you 90 days like it took Andy. It's going to take you 180 at that pace. And if you even cut it back further, it's going to take you, 360 days if you're only doing 4 a day. So I think it's just consistency. And then again, just going back to looking to get a little bit better is if you have a mindset to be like, okay, that didn't really work well. I should have said something differently. And then you say it differently next time. But if you're not getting out there and saying anything at all, you can't get any better. You just got to be consistent.
And I would add an extra piece to that consistency side that I would say the number one downfall of producers that have early success is they generate a bunch of leads and then they stop marketing because they're like, oh, I'm crushing it. Leads are coming in. I'm good. My market's set up. We did it. And literally like clockwork, 45 days pass and their funnel's dried up. Leads are not coming in and their mortgage brokers have moved on. It's like clockwork and they're starting from scratch. That
moved on to Andy.
Consistency is so big. And if you're mentoring, if you're mentoring agents specifically, that is one of the main, I would say, incubation points that you have to drill into your producers is when they start to crush it. It's like, oh, you figured it out. Great. You've got leads coming in. You're going to still go market, right? Still got your 2 days a week. Yep. That's it. Like clockwork, man. They fall on their face and then they got to start over again.
Yeah, that's amazing.
A lot of producers don't. Yeah.
Danger zone.
I remember Sean telling us at the conference we went out in Denver, they would do a Monday marketing email update to referral partners. It was just simply, hey, how was your weekend? Here's how my weekend is, something personable. And then something of value, something maybe going on with the market that's going to help them do their job better. And then a sign off that said, hey, I'll be here all week if you need any help or whatever it may be. And Sean, you were making the point to me when we were grabbing a bite to eat. We were just saying, you know, I was telling these agents, like, you don't even have to write a good email. Watch. He's like, I'll write an email on Monday and I won't put anything in the body and I'll just have a subject line. And you get to the point where you send it out and people still reply, or somebody replies and says, hey, by the way, can you quote this, Sean? And you're like, look, I told you, you could be bad. You just have to do the work. And I still think of that story. And that's kind of how I sum up what you guys just said is there's a lot of room. And then you can get better along the way because you're doing so many reps. You don't have to stay bad, but you can still be effective when you're bad. And that willingness to be bad until you get better, to me, is a key ingredient that I look at and say that's a big deal.
I was going to ask one of the questions from the community, which was, what's a practical piece of advice I can apply tomorrow to increase my sales and revenue? But I think we just got a clinic on that.
I think we just got a
marketing.
schooling on that.
Consistency. And when you start doing well, that's when you should be weary. I mean, that's a clinic.
We have fun. We have fun listening to people talk about, made a good sales call, made a good marketing call. And then the phone rings, a week or two later, we're like, hey, marketing does work. It's like they're still surprised in the reactions. But, I mean, your consistency statements, boys, are just spot on.
So speaking of the community, I have a couple questions here, one of which I wanted to ask you guys, and we'll wrap up here shortly. This has been incredible, by the way, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, we could ask you 100 questions just with your experience and what you guys have done, and just love talking to you guys. But plus, you're just three great dudes. So I can't wait to be in person. We can have a beer together. That'd be great. So.
Or two.
Maybe or three. Three. So,
yeah, maybe a little more.
Yeah. We could just have one a bunch of times.
Yeah, there you go. That's even better. This question came up a couple times in different forms, so I'm going to paraphrase here. But so based upon kind of your journey so far together, whether it's through the agency or now through GloveBox, obviously GloveBox is hot right now. We have to make difficult decisions as professionals and entrepreneurs and leaders. And what was the most difficult decision that the three of you have had to make on your journey so far, and why? And what have you learned from that particular decision, that experience?
I know mine is a question. I was watching a buddy of mine's got a startup here in town in the restaurant business, and he sent me over this. It's about a 35-minute video of the ex-CRO of HubSpot. I know you boys love HubSpot as well.
Yep.
And he was talking about the 6 pitfalls of SaaS companies. And I hit number 6, that pothole, like it was my job. It was raise capital and hire a bunch of salespeople. Because, this makes total sense. Let's just hire a bunch of salespeople and penetrate the market. Unfortunately, we had to part ways with a lot of those salespeople. And I would say that was probably the hardest thing that I've been through as the CEO here. Understanding where we went wrong with that process. Parting ways with team members at your company is never easy. Sometimes it's easier when they don't show up, right? They're not producing, they're not dedicated, they don't follow, the structure that you put in place. They're just not there. That's a little bit easier, which was the case with our team in general. However, that was a learning lesson that I'll carry with me for sure, is understanding where we went wrong on blanketing the market with sales reps. I would say that was probably my biggest learning lesson in this whole process, is understanding you can't just throw people at a problem and think it's going to fix itself. There's so much foundational work that needs to be done before you can set people up at your company for success. So really analyzing what you're hiring for and say, hey, have we done a good job of scoping out how to do this first before we're going to go hire someone to come in and take the reins? Or am I just dumping this problem on somebody and saying, here, you figure it out? That's something that we're really trying to get better at.
Wow, that's awesome.
Great answer.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know we can. I can name a couple of situations that totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Anybody, you guys have any other ones that pop up?
I would say the decision. I think that's a tough question. The decision to actually go start GloveBox, I wouldn't necessarily say it was hard, but we molded over. I know I molded over for a long time, but it wasn't hard. It was like you're sitting there and and we had the agency. We were
good.
We were kind of bored. Like not. Money's coming in. You're pretty set. We're in a good spot. We could have just kept riding it out. We could have taken the agency to the next levels. We could have expanded commercial. We could have done a lot of cool things there, and it would have been pretty easy. Starting GloveBox was definitely a road less traveled and a very a lot of people probably would have been like, why would you do that? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I say it wasn't super hard is because I think I had already made that decision, in my life once. To get into insurance, I had to move into my parents' basement and, take a few steps back. To get into commercial, I had to take a couple steps back. And so this was just, every couple of years, I guess I take a couple steps back. But I have a very good friend of mine, Ryan and Andy know him. We actually work with him now too. He's a consultant with us, but he kind of put it in perspective. He's like, well, if GloveBox could just replace that income, would you rather do that? And I was like, oh man, yeah, because it's a huge kind of passion project of ours. Mm-hmm. If it just did that, let alone anything else we think it could do, it would be worth it. And then at the end of the day, what's the worst that happens? We go start another agency, and then 5 years later, maybe we're right back where we started. So I would say it was a very hard decision because you look at what you have and you don't want to lose it necessarily. But then at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, I feel like we're wired to make it hard, make it tedious, or, you got to have some crazy hard challenge, so it was a hard decision, but at the same time, I don't know if that's a good answer. It was like not hard, but hard at the same time.
It's a great answer.
Cool. For me,
cool.
For me, it's a more simple one. I mean, it maybe wasn't a decision per se, but maybe a way of which we did things. In the very beginning, we were bringing on agencies that didn't matter what size they were or what their operations looked like. We were just like, we just need to start getting some traction here. I wish we would have probably slowed down, brought on the right agencies from the get-go so we wouldn't have so much headache, getting them caught up to actually use it the right way and having to teach them and remind them. And just the right agencies matter to build your company the right way right from the get-go versus having a couple steps backwards and say like, no, we need to look at the right agencies and make sure we have an ideal client and go from there. Cause we've had to have some headaches, right. And make sure we, bring on the right clients. That's something I would say I wish we could redo, but so not necessarily a decision, but.
Dude, that's so universal, man. Like how we're having those conversations right now. I mean, it's like, it's such a mistake. At some level, you got to get a client, right? So there's that. But then past that, it's like, it's so easy to just do that tomorrow, right? Like to identify the ideal client, go after that and have high standards and be relentless in pursuit of that, to take less for the right, target. And man, I don't know if that ever goes away. I know you guys are farther along that life cycle, but it's that dichotomy tug between revenue and efficiencies and synchronicities, and that's a really cool answer, man. Because I think that I don't care what business you're in, that hits home to me, man. That hits home to me.
For insurance, it's similar to just writing a bunch of monoline home clients versus the package business, right? It's like, I just want to sell deals and bring on the client, but no, it's like, do it right and keep them on the books, and those are the right clients.
Or even for you, Rod, when you're interviewing, commercial clients, like, if it's a client we want to work with, it's a client that appreciates the work I'm going to do for them.
That's right. A
lot of give and take. There's a lot of decisions you make as well as a salesperson, and obviously an owner of the company, to say, hey, is this a good fit for us? It's obviously it's easier when you have revenue coming in, but to Andy's point in the beginning, it's like,
that's why you got to market.
That's right. That's why you got to market.
Yep, exactly.
Can I fire another community question at him?
Absolutely.
Guys, here's one from the community. It says, what is the best way to find investors for my business? I feel like that one's pretty relevant, man. I figured that'd be a good one.
We'll watch the docu-series.
Send an email to the Urban Young Guys, first and foremost.
There you go.
Start a GoFundMe. You want the step-by-step, or
well, just give us
give us your experience. For those that
Ryan is about as well versed in this right now as anyone.
Yeah, for those that are listening, they have a YouTube channel where they documented this, and there's a part one and a part two of this process that they just finished. What is it? A $5 million round, $5 million plus round that they just did, and it goes through this nuts and bolts. But maybe just give us your experience, Ryan, because you're kind of right out of the ring on this one.
Kind of figured that would surface as part of a cool part of the answer is your YouTube. So
yeah, I won't go into too much detail because I don't have a lot of time. But we've raised almost $10 million in capital over 2 rounds. We also self-funded the first round, which I think is super important, skin in the game, right? Our own capital. We were writing $25 checks every single month in a 400 square foot office. So
25,000.
Yeah, 25,000 with no product and no revenue. So
wow.
That's when you're really all in on your idea. Honestly, I treated it just like our mortgage broker marketing, man. Like I hit up Crunchbase. So I got a Crunchbase membership. I actually got the free version, so I didn't have to pay for it because, why pay for it? And I literally spent 7 days on our free trial filling up our HubSpot with all of the investors that had invested in InsurTech over the last 3 years, right?
Wow.
That's how I started. Then I started identifying who do I know that knows these people? What companies have they invested in? Who can I reach out to get introductions?
That's a big one. That's a big one. There's a nugget. That's
Not
a
who
clue.
you know who they know.
That's a big one. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
connect the dots, man. Because at the end of the day, investors like introductions. They're going to take you more serious, if it comes from somebody else. I started there. I hate it when people say you can't cold reach out investors because they're 100% wrong. You can absolutely cold reach out to investors if you have a compelling story to tell. If they play in your space, so understanding, hey, do they invest in SaaS B2B products? Do they invest in InsurTech? Do they invest in the rounds that you're looking to raise? Don't reach out to growth people if you're trying to raise a convertible, seed round, because they're not your people. So you want to make sure you understand the makeup of how your investors that you're targeting actually invest to make sure that they're a fit. And then from there, it's that grow work, man. Sending emails, setting meetings, getting your stuff in front of them, making sure you have a really good pitch deck. I actually have a pitch deck that's not mine. It was shared with me. That is literally the epitome of how you should set up your pitch deck to raise capital. I'm happy to share it if someone wants to see it.
Amazing.
And then it's just numbers, man. It's that mortgage broker marketing. That's all I know. So it's relentless. Have a goal. Find the people, get the money. It's not rocket science. It's just
maybe add to that to Ryan. Ryan, did you know a ton about raising capital and all the different styles of capital?
Zero, and I had no mentors. Literally, it's just
that goes to your question. If you don't know what you're doing, Ryan had no clue. And we heard him pitching. He sounded like it.
Yeah.
But he kept doing it. He was consistent. And the difference between round 1 and round 2 was he was an assassin, but he was diligent. My office, not where I'm at now, is right next to him. It was every day, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings every single day, over and over and over again. And now when you hear Ryan talk about it, it's man, it seems like you've been doing this for a long time. And it's I got to watch, Andy got to watch, we got to watch him get very good at something very quickly. But like Ryan just said, it's the exact same process. If you just get into insurance and you want to go call mortgage brokers, you're just getting into commercial, you want to go learn golf, you want to be a good parent, whatever it might be. You're never going to know what you're doing, but you just have to be consistent and try and then get a little bit better each day.
One thing, real quick, one thing that is super, super, I just love it, man. You got it's so easy to have respect for you guys because, we talk a lot about belief, right, amongst our team, and you guys exude such belief, even when you might not know the answer or might not know the way. I think so many people that are going to listen to this are going to be able to understand the importance of belief and the importance of just how that belief bleeds into your posture, and you guys exude that. I'm reminded how impressed and how much I respect you guys just listening here. So those are great answers.
And I want to
piggyback.
No, I just wanted to say you guys have talked a little bit about your partnership subtlety that I'm picking up on. I just see so many similarities in our partnership, and I, certainly feel completely fortunate and blessed in the different personality styles and the different parts of the journey that we're all on. But you guys are also very complimentary of each other, and I've caught that throughout this, the time with you, but also just this hour that we've had for you. So I just want to give you kudos to that, because I think that's a subtlety. Right. If anybody has partners or work together on a team, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Well, man,
I would just kind of wrap that up with don't wait for someone to come in and help you, and don't be afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. Like, those are two core values that I think are super important when you're trying to learn something new. But don't wait for someone to come help you out, and you gotta be okay with failure, because you can always come back. So failure is just part of the game.
I heard someone say, I've stole it, said, I've never failed in my life. I've just figured out a way not to do it. So that's awesome. Well, man, you guys are just, I cannot wait for you guys to get down here. We are absolutely stoked. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I have 2 asks before we get to sign off here. Number 1, that OKR process. If you guys would be willing to share at least a framework with our community, that would be epic, because I know that was something I wrote down. I see it on Rod's notes as well. So if that's proprietary, of course, that's an ask. I won't have you answer that. But if you have some sort of framework that could help the listeners on that, even for us, I'd love to see that. That'd be awesome. And then number 2, you just mentioned it with that I think that a pitch deck you have, Ryan. Man, that would be amazing if you would share that. I know that would be really helpful, again, to us, but also the listener. That would be really, really cool if we could share that with the group.
Yeah, I was almost certain the ask was going to be for Andy's background.
Or for Andy to take his shirt off. I thought we were getting Andy's shirt off. So.
That's a different meeting.
We'll wait for the summit on that one. That's awesome. Well, man, how can...
I feel like I'm always getting thrown under the bus somehow. We just...
I love how we coordinated the piece, though. I feel like it makes us very non-assuming.
Strategery. Well, if you are exactly. If you're an agent and you're listening to this and you are not on GloveBox yet, let me just be candid with you. You're missing it. You are missing it. You are going to get passed by. There is not one thing I feel more certain about than what these guys have put together. And it will be too late. So do not wait. You want to call these guys, get on this bus, and you want to implement this with your agency. It is not a want to have. It is an absolute need to have. And then secondly, if you are in another industry, reach out to these guys on LinkedIn. They are extremely active out there. They're helpful. They answer questions. They're networkers. They're contributors. They're absolute class acts. And I would highly suggest you connect with them and make that part of your network. These are 3 guys that you do not want to sleep on. So how can everybody find you guys real quick? Just what's the best way to connect with you, and just kind of a sign off here so we can give GloveBox some love.
Yeah, I mean, I really like LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are my 2 places. So you can find me there, Andy Matheson, on both sides.
Yeah, pretty similar emails. Our first name at GloveBoxApp.com, GloveBoxApp.com. So pretty easy emails as well. But we're all super accessible. Love helping entrepreneurs, new insurance agents, real estate, mortgage, the whole 9. So,
Ryan, you still have MySpace, right?
I go by handwritten letter. That's how I prefer.
My MySpace remains fire.
Got it.
And by the way, my 10-year-old son reminded me this weekend that Sus is like 2019. I've started using Sus, and apparently I'm behind the times. So I have
no idea on that as well. No clue what you're talking about.
I was trying to be relevant to my 10-year-old.
Don't worry about it.
That was one of my failures.
Man, that's awesome. Well, dudes, what an incredible time. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us. To my partners, you guys are amazing. It's always fun. Love seeing you. And you guys are the epitome of what extraordinary is. Bye-bye for now.